We are on to round 11, and we have some interesting starting pitchers like Spencer Strider and Roki Sasaki. What are we doing with these big names and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball?
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ahne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ahne. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us, or if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below and it will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, and especially to you guys this time of year, join us on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And in this time of year, you're going to get our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, and busts, and so much more. And Matt, we're around 11 already. And there's some super interesting names here. I think there's a lot of great value. But take us away here, my brother.
No doubt. So we are now in the territory of like kind of forming the, outer skirts of our teams, maybe getting some last ditch efforts and things like that at positional eligibility. And this dude, Brice Turang, I feel is a good example of, kind of making up where you're short at, whether he's going to be your starting shortstop or, you want to kind of capitalize in a certain, category. He's like the perfect pick. He's not my favorite pick, but he's the perfect pick for a guy that kind of, or for a person that waited long and didn't get as many stolen base guys. You're getting him at pick. What is this now? Turang is going at pick 120-ish, right? Like it's kind of like the perfect complement for your team, right? He stole 50 stolen bases in this previous season and was stayed healthy the whole year. Missed the grand total of 5 total games, was probably his rest games, right? He batted .254. He had 57 ribs, 7 home runs, 4 triples, 24 doubles, 72 runs. Now, obviously, the peripherals of the counting stats aren't wonderful, right? You're really only drafting him for stolen base upside. Previous year, 38. This year, 50. Probably somewhere in between this year, right? If he gets 40 at this price, it's pretty nice. It's not like he's mutilating your batting average. It's not like he's not contributing to the other categories, but he's just not the sexiest pick in this round. So based off your team construction, I'm okay with taking Brice Turang, but at the end of the day, he's not my favorite person in this round. But again, not talking circles, he is the guy that you want to get if you did not draft stolen bases higher.
Yeah, man, and I'm going to even chime in with, even at second base, this is where you talked about last-ditch efforts at positions. There's only a few good second basemen left after Turang. After Turang at 120, you have Nico Hoerner and Luis Garcia. And after that, in my opinion, it starts to fall off a cliff. And I think there's a little bit of upside with Turang here. He's somebody who's been known for a good batting average in the minors. His batting average is at 261. He hit 254 last year. Brice Turang did with those Milwaukee Brewers, of course. So I think there's a little bit of upside with the batting average. And even in points leagues, I think Turang moves up a little bit at second base. He's coming off the board as the 9th second baseman. I also have him ranked as the 9th second baseman. And as I mentioned, in points leagues, 50 walks to 105 strikeouts last year, so that really helps you in those kinds of formats. I like Turang, like Matt, great point. Not the sexiest pick here of this round, but I think there is some upside if you want to take him here just to fill out your second baseman if you waited, and you do need speed, like you said. Great point. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about one of the most fascinating, interesting names in fantasy baseball right now. It's Spencer Strider. I just personally think this is fantastic value for a guy like Strider right now, coming off the board at pick 122, plays for those Atlanta Braves. Atlanta has already come out and said that Strider most likely won't be ready for opening day, so he's going to miss some time here. But when you're talking about getting Spencer Strider here, I actually want to see where this is, because it's what your SP4 almost at this point right now. SP39 you're talking about. So yeah, about your SP4. I think it's worth every sense of the risk. It honestly, it's so funny. The 3 starting pitchers in a row here, it's McClanahan, Strider, and Sasaki. 3 starting pitchers that could all be your SP1, or, they could have some injury concerns. Sasaki could have some trouble adjusting, but with Strider, I think it's just worth it because we know he's been the SP1 before. We know the monster strikeout upside. I think you worry about the ERA a little bit, but even if he finishes with like a 3.2, a 3.3 ERA with those monster strikeouts totals, he's going to give you a great whip. I just don't think there's a lot to be concerned about other than the injury, which could be really bad. But if you've drafted a decent staff with some stability in it, you could come in here and take Spencer Strider as like your SP4 and just walk away with big time money here. I love this pick.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't foresee this being, this his final draft price as we get closer to draft season. This is draft and holds where, like, you really have to be, a little bit more on the conservative side. Ultimately, where you can't exactly take too many risks. Now, for me, Strider's ranked still pretty high. I look at where I have Strider ranked, and I still have Strider ranked as my. Where'd you go, bud? I know you're pretty high. I think my 18th overall pitcher.
Yeah, I've moved him down to 15, so that kind of says a lot about where I believe in Strider too.
Right. So, like, here's the deal too. He's due back May 1st with no setbacks, no issues. Right. He pretty much missed the whole entire season. Got hurt really early. He got hurt because I was one of the owners, unfortunately, April 5th. So he got one started and then said, peace out. Like, okay, cool. So the May 1st is probably even like conservative. He may be back earlier. So it's probably, hey, spring training, they're going to start warming him up. April, they're going to get him in some, rehab starts, and bearing no setbacks, he'll be ready to rock. So the only thing that's going to probably be high for Strider is the command, which is going to lead to higher walk rates. But who cares? By the end of the season, he's going to be elite. So for me, Spencer Strider's a slam dunk pick. If he's here, he's my pick in this round no matter what. I don't even care who else is available. Strider's the number 1 pitcher overall if healthy. Let's put it that way. So anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Mr. Anthony Volpe of the New York Yankees. Volpe. So here, and I'm a bad Yankee fan. I think Volpe's really good for real baseball. I don't think he's really good for fantasy baseball. Even though he's 23 years old, I don't really feel great about drafting him, right? So, like, this is his stat line from last year. 637 at-bats, 90 runs, 27 doubles, 7 triples, 12 home runs, 60 ribs, 28 stolen bases, and batted .243. So when it comes to Volpe, like, in comparison to, how his minor league performance went and how he's actually performing in the bigs over the last 2 years, he's had 2 full seasons. Funny enough, this is not his rookie season. It's nowhere near where we thought it would be, right? Like, he had power in the minors, right? Like, in 2022, he hit 21 home runs and still had 50 stolen bases. The batting average, also isn't as great in 2022. He had, batted .249. And, everybody kind of had the hope that he might be able to hit a little bit better because of the walks and strikeouts, but it's gotten worse ultimately when he got to the bigs. So for me, I'm kind of like whatever on him. He's the same kind of category as Turang, but, it's just a little bit better, I think, than Turang in terms of the run capability, but the batting average is the same. Stolen bases, he hasn't really shown the high prolific, stolen base numbers with only 24 and 28. So it's really might be also a methodology of the Yankees not letting him run as much. So he may be capped at 30, 35 max, which still is good. But again, I'm picking guys in this round a little bit higher than him, but he's not the worst of this round.
Before I jump in and give my take on Volpe as a Yankee fan, and like I said, we have great names today like Roki Sasaki, Carlos Rodon, and much more coming up next.
Okay. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscription you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Ugh, I hate when that happens. That's definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them down. And it's like having a personal assistant for your finances because Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and help you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even your goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users that have saved a grand total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, and has a savings members up to $740 a year when using all their apps and premium features. For me, one of the best features is its subscription tracker, right? I've used it to cancel services I wasn't even using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goal feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. Rocketmoney.com/locked on. Visit today. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy companion. Listen, guys, I know if you're on there, the rankings only pretty much came out once, but it's coming out weekly starting next year, which is this Friday, funny enough. So we'll be on the 3rd, and that is when I normally release it. So you'll be getting both our rankings. I'll be adding tiers to my rankings over the next couple of weeks before we head into...
I'm going to try my best to get it done, too.
Yeah. Before we reach spring training, but at least you get a rough estimate of what's going on. And we're going to have full comprehension of that. Plus, you're going to get our sleepers, breakout bust, so much more that we can only offer on this. Can't offer that much on this 30-minute podcast. We'll maybe get like 5 of ours each, but our lists go about like 13, 14, 15 deep in every single category of sleeper, breakout bust and more. Plus, being able to ask us questions, minimal cost, links in the description below. Let's hit it. So we are back, and Dom, we were talking about Anthony Volpe. Do you agree, disagree with how I was talking?
No, I'm with you. It's a risky pick, and I think this is a make or break year for Volpe with not only fantasy baseball players, but the Yankees as well, because, it's going to be his 3rd full season. It's going to be 24. And it was just a weird year. As you mentioned, he took a step back in home runs, but took a big step forward in batting average and steals. And even runs were a lot bigger, especially with Juan Soto there. But now with no Juan Soto, Yankees brought in a couple of more bats. We'll see where the thing goes. It's just a risky pick. I'm probably not taking Volpe if this is the price. I think it's a little bit steep for my blood. It's the 15th shortstop off the board. It's pick 124. I have Volpe as my 17th shortstop, so I'm not too far off, but I think it's just too much of a risk because, like you even said, with a guy like Brice Turang, who's also going this round, for a fact that you're going to get steals, speed, and at least a decent batting average. With Volpe, mediocre steals, a mediocre to above average steals with maybe good potential runs, but you don't know what you're getting in batting average. You didn't get a lot of power last year. I'll take Turang in this round when it comes to that second base, shortstop, middle infield position. But let's move on. Let's talk about another closer. I feel like I've been saying the same thing about closers for the last few episodes. Hey, this is the time to jump in and get one. And if Jhoan Duran is, going right now and you are looking at closers in this round, go for it. I think Duran's being slept on a little bit of a down year last year. He's still young, still throws gas, going to be 27 years old this upcoming season. Last season, Duran with the Twins, 3.64 ERA, 58 games, had 23 saves, 54 innings, 66 strikeouts, had a 116 whip. I still think there's upside here. He, like I said, young, throws gas. The Twins, let's see how they are this year. And, Jhoan Duran, 6'5", 230, mountain of a man, a lot of strikeout potential. I have him as the number 9 closer right now. And I think that might be right in tune with where he's coming off the board. Let me just double check it. Duran, 14th relief pitcher, but that has a bunch of starters mixed in there, so probably right around there. Pick 126, not a bad spot. Low-end closer number 1 for me.
Yeah, I like Duran a lot. He's never really failed. He's usually super successful. He's kind of like your safety net. Hey, I didn't get the number 1 closer. I didn't get even the number 5, but he's right up there with the rest. Like, I started doing my relief pitchers. I have Duran at 9. And I think it's like a really fair spot for him, truthfully. Like, you can't really get upset at all. Dom, you said it very well. All I'm pretty much saying is I agree at the end of the day. But I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna pull up my boy Roki Sasaki. And my guy is really interesting. Only 23 years old, another young pitcher coming over from Japan. And he looks like somebody that could be a force as well. last year, this just is like just to look at what he did in the Japanese league. In 2024, he had 111 innings pitched. He had 129 strikeouts. He had an ERA of 2.35 and a WHIP of 1.36. The kid is a force. Like he has, the year before he had a 1.78 ERA through 91 innings and had 135 strikeouts. In 2022, he had a 2.02 ERA and had 129 innings pitched and had 173 strikeouts with a low WHIP as well. He is honestly one of the more interesting players that are coming over. To be honest, might even be up there with Ohtani in terms of how well he pitches. Might even surpass Yamamoto at some point, depending on the landing spot. I really like this kid a lot. To be honest, he's probably going up in my rankings. It's not like I have him buried at this point, but the more and more you do a deeper dive on this kid, and you're just like, I really know I got to get a piece of this kid. Let's put it that way. I think right now I currently have him ranked in the top 36, probably going up to top 24, if not higher. This kid is going to be a beast.
Yeah, I have Sasaki at 30, Matt. So I think we're kind of going to be in a similar area with Sasaki, especially it depends on where he signs. All arrows are pointing to the Dodgers, of course, and they are, even after the big Blake Snell signing, too. Why wouldn't they just keep adding more? They do lose Walker Buehler, so they do need another arm in there, and they've lost a bunch of their, young guys to injuries this past season, too. So they're just trying to, Dodger up as they normally do. I think if he signs it, like Matt said, maybe even low-end SP2, high-end SP3 range for Sasaki. So while you can draft him here, you might as well, because right now it's pick 126 SP40 for Sasaki, according to ADP. So that is quite a bargain, according to Matt and I. Let's move on to this next bat. Let's talk Matt Chapman. I think Matt Chapman's like a safety, kind of like a safety fallback option at third base. I like him. It's just a weird round, when you're looking at, this looks like another pitching round to me. I like to build my team, and there is mock drafts available. Shout out to Draft Wizards, powered by Fantasy Pros. You can go and get some early mock drafts done in there. I know I've been doing a few myself. I'm taking my bats early this year, and this is where I'm capitalizing on the Spencer Strider Sasaki's. I do like Matt Chapman, though. He's not a bad option at third base. 154 games with the Giants last year. 575 at-bats, 98 runs, 39 doubles, 2 triples, 27 bombs, 78 RBIs, 15 steals, and he had 247. He was certainly useful for fantasy. I know I had him in a couple of leagues. You were able to pick him up off waiver wires. I have Matt Chapman as my 11th third baseman. I actually want to see where this is, according to ADP in third base, because it actually might fall later than that. So actually, according to my rankings, we might be making some money here on Chapman. Yeah, 15th third baseman off the board. So you know what? If you do need a third baseman, and is he like one of the last? Yeah, because then after Chapman, you got Eugenio Suarez, who had a pretty decent year last year in the Max Muncies, but then a lot of the names after that aren't really too great. Third base is a position that is a little bit deeper than you'd think, but I do like Matt Chapman here. Just don't know if this is the round where I'm jumping in and taking third base, but if you have to, I don't think this is a bad pick. I do have Chapman ranked a lot higher than this.
So I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole in this round. So let's put it this way. I feel like this is an overreaction to how he performed. Yeah, he had 27 home runs. Yeah, he had, so many runs, but he had a mediocre batting average, and he didn't have, he didn't even break 80 in the ribs. So like for me to take him over other guys that are probably going later at the position, it kind of just doesn't add. Plus in this round too, you have the Burgers, the Justin Steeles, the Nimos, the Garcias, and I'm just not touching him with a 10-foot pole in those regards. There's just better bats out there that can round out my team and kind of contribute more day in and day out. But coming up next, we're going to be talking about Carlos Rodon, how to actually handle this, because he was being drafted so high and so prominently, even with the injury. We'll find out what I'm doing with him and so much more coming up next. Yeah, buddy. All right, so Mr. Carlos Rodon. Well, let's look at his stats and kind of go from there. How about that? So He had 175 innings pitched. He had 195 strikeouts. He had an ERA of 3.96 and a FIP of 4.39 with a WHIP of 122. So, you look at just a rough shot of just his stats alone, and you just go, it doesn't really feel great because of that ERA. Probably could have been even higher, and plus what you paid for last year just wasn't wonderful. You look at just like even his underlying stats, right? Like he walked guys a lot. He allowed guys to create a barrel 11% of the time, allowed hard contact 40.9% of the time, didn't produce any ground balls, and the average exit velocity was sitting at 90.4. Now, why am I highlighting these stats specifically? Well, because he pitches in Yankee Stadium, and you aren't able to reduce the hard contact percentage. You aren't able to produce ground balls, and you aren't able to lower that we call it exit velocity. Then you're going to get in trouble, and you're going to see higher ERAs. On top of that, you look at the FIP, which is fielding independent pitching. So if you had an average defense behind you, this is what it would be. Well, Yankees had a pretty good defense, and they're still saying his ERA should have been higher, which is saying that it could have been a lot worse. So with Rodon, he still has the upside that we're all chasing, but we haven't seen it for 2 years. Yes, he was hurt pretty much. The year before was entirely. And this year still showed a little bit of fatigue. He's also not a spring chicken going into age 32. I am kind of on the hesitant side with drafting him. I'm not touching him in this round at all. In terms of where I have Rodon, I think he's fallen on my rankings. Let me pull that up. Let's see real quick. Carlos. Can we find him, please? He is at my pitcher 53. So I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole in this round. Again, there's guys that are going much higher in my rankings, like a Justin Steele, that's going a little bit later, and I'd much rather draft him.
See, Matt, this is an interesting episode because I think we're doing a lot of disagreeing. I'm kind of in on Rodon, and I'll tell you why. His last 15 starts last year, he showed me something, right? So over Rodon's last 15 starts last year was 81 innings pitched. He won 8 of those games. He had a 3.43 ERA. He had 103 strikeouts over those 81 innings. He had like a 103-ish WHIP. Batters hit 215 over him against that time. It took him a while to bounce back. Like you said, he's no spring chicken. Sometimes it takes guys a little bit to bounce back from injury. He was dealing with the forearm strain from 2023, the hamstring strain from 2023. So I think it just took him a little bit to get going in 2024. I don't think this is going to be the whole season. I still think it'll be elevated like a 3.6, 3.7 ERA. I think you'll still see the big strikeouts because that's what Rodon does. The WHIP, another thing, I don't think it's going to be great, like a 1.20 WHIP. I have Rodon around my SP 40. So this is about the spot. I'm close with ADP. ADP has him at SP 41, pick 128. As you said, I do have Justin Steele higher. I do have Sasaki and Strider higher as well. So I think if the key is if Rodon falls a little bit, and he's going under guys like that, I'll take him. If not, it's going to be interesting. But there's upside. I do like him here. And I do have him ranked fairly decently. Let's move on to this.
You could enjoy that landmine is all I'm saying. Enjoy.
See, and that's the thing, though. You need to have drafted a stable rotation up to this point. Rodon is not a guy that you jump in if you took a bunch of other guys that are risky going in. It's more of okay, let me throw my dart here on Rodon being that guy he was in his last 15 starts for majority of next season, because I've taken a stable rotation to this point. If it's the other way around, you kind of wait. But let's move on to the next guy. Let's talk about this next guy. I think another interesting name. Let's talk about Ezequiel Tovar. I think Tovar did the exact opposite of what we were kind of expecting from him, this season. Still played well. Another guy that I just don't think this is the round that we're jumping in on too many hitters, and I don't know if Tovar is going to be one of those guys. Took a really big step forward in power, 26 home runs for the young Tovar in 2024 with those Rockies. Hit 269, but only 6 steals. In the minors, Tovar was really more known for his speed than his power, so it's interesting to see him jump up to 26 home runs. If Tovar can tap into that power and be a 30-ish homer guy, a 25 to 30 home run guy with 20 steals and get that batting average going, we could have ourselves a real factor in fantasy baseball. I just don't know if I'm counting on that. I would love to grab Tovar as more of like a utility kind of bat, maybe like a number one guy off my bench to throw in and take that risk there. I have Tovar behind Anthony Volpe at shortstop, number 18 coming off of the board for me. I think it's just a risky pick that I don't know if I'm going to take the upside. And he is shortstop 16 off the board, pick 129. It's just there's so much other stuff going on in this round, as we've been talking about this whole episode. I really like the starting pitching in this round, and I've usually filled up a good portion of my bats, and I'm really digging on the starting pitching right now. Tovar, as good as the upside is probably a pass for me in this round.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think we're also he was trying to justify his contract that he got paid. I don't think we're going to see it. There's going to be a lot of negative regression. There we go. Where I just think that this is not who he is. So it is what it is. But I want to move on to a more important name here, Jake Burger, the Burger Man himself. Get me a Big Mac because we're ready to have fun. Guy hit power here. That's pretty much who he is. 29 home runs in last year, which was wonderful. 535 at bats, 68 runs. 23 doubles, a triple, 29 bombs, 76 ribs, stolen base, who cares? Batted 250. So here's the thing. The power is relevant. He's just going to hit home runs. That's just what he's doing. He has upside to hit higher. He's at 34 in 2023. So the thing is he's on Miami in a bigger park, and on top of that, there's really nobody on that team. So you're limited as to, the peripherals of both runs and ribs, but I think that he could still create some things, and maybe they do some things to actually be successful for once. Who knows? Other than that, if anything, I'm going to count on Jake Burger possibly being traded to another team where that is really the upside. But I'm not picking him really in this round. I'm kind of going to pass on him, but he does have upside. I think he'll probably fall in the rankings probably another 2 or 3 rounds by come draft day because the allure of him is just not really there because of the team he's on.
Yeah, Matt, you said it perfectly. I just never really been a huge Jake Burger guy. I love the pop in the bat, and then the park in Miami limits that power at that too, as Matt, you were kind of talking about there. I'm taking Matt Chapman in this round if I need a third baseman, so I'm passing on Burger as well. Let's talk about next title. Let's move on to Justin Steele, who, Matt, you know what the funny thing is? I feel like guys like Justin Steele, whenever I jump on the bandwagon is when they decide, I'm not going to be great anymore. And this year, I feel like I'm jumping in on the bandwagon with Justin Steele. I've got him all the way up at SP 30 in my rankings, which is, way higher than he's going in ADP. I think it's SP 42 or 43 as I pull it up here. SP 42 for Justin Steele, pick 129. So this is a bargain. I love the consistency we've seen over the last, what is it at this point, 3 years from Justin Steele, right around that K per 9, a low 3s ERA, a very solid whip, which has only been improving over the past, 3 seasons for Justin Steele. I love him. I think you could jump in here and get yourself a great starting pitcher as your SP4. I love what Justin Steele brings to the table. This is the opposite of the Carlos Rodon pick, who is the mystery bag. With Justin Steele, you basically know that you're going to get a really good starting pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard me mention his name like 6 times this episode, so you already know how I feel. Last year I was a little bit more hesitant. I didn't think it was consistent enough to maintain the value, but I think that he has done it 2 years in a row. It has won me over. It's not like
3.
3 years. So it's not like, we can't buy in anymore. I think it's just, hey, you may not like it, but this is what he does, and this is how good he is, and we're just gonna have to buy into it now. All right, Brandon Nimmo. I want to go a little bit faster here. The New York Mets, I don't know why he's going in this round, in all honesty. 571 at bats, 88 runs, 25 doubles, 3 triples, 23 home runs, 15 stolen bases, and bat a whopping 224. A guy that hits 224 doesn't hit 40 home runs or 50 home runs and, gets decent run of ribs. I think I'm going to pass. It's not even like he has elite stolen base upside. He had 15 this year. That's great, but a lot of guys do, and that's a career high. I ain't chasing that either. Brandon Nimmo does not deserve to be in this round. Do not draft him. He is an outright bust at this pick.
Yeah, I'm not in on Nimmo at this point either. Outfielder number 50 for me, so a little bit rich, but I do want to sneak this next guy in because he's interesting. Let's talk Luis Garcia while we have a minute here. He goes over to those Nationals, and honestly, he's been pretty good. A strong year. I said goes over to those Nationals. He's been with the Nationals. That is my fault there. 18
Don't
home
let it
runs.
happen again.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about somebody. One of the other Luis Garcias got caught in my head. So one of the many Luis Garcias in the league. So 18 homers for Luis Garcia of the Nationals, 22 steals, a 282 batting average. I think this is a quality pick if you are taking a bat in this round. I actually have Luis Garcia at my number 10 second baseman. Honestly, if he was on a better team, I'd have him over Brice Turang because I think the skill set is better. But I think the counting stats is what's going to limit you on Luis Garcia in 2025 with those Nationals.
We'll see. I
It could be good though. I know. I know where you're going to go. I'm sorry. I know where you're going to go.
We'll see. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, the two new rookies and additions to the team are absolutely going to change all of that. Let's just be honest here. The one thing that kind of sucks for him is the power and the not enough stolen bases. It's not like he has elite sprint speed or anything of the sort like that, but he definitely is somebody that I'm drafting over others at the position. Second base is definitely a position that I want to try and capitalize. I have him ranked specifically at 8, but that's probably going to fall to like probably 10. But still, once we start getting into the Brice Turangs and the Spencer Steers and the Lucerais and the Isaac Paredes, it's like, okay, do you want to take the shot on Luis Garcia? Absolutely, over those guys.
He can hit. That's the thing. He does have the skill set. And he's going to be only 25 next season. There's still upside here in this bat.
Yeah, absolutely. But guys, with that, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this show. And when you're done, check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Gives a full breakdown of the MLB, all your knowledge that you're going to want that isn't fantasy related. Have a great day, guys. Peace.
See ya.